Hello, everyone. I'm Jay Maharaj. I'm a senior product manager in the Microsoft Security Customer Experience Engineering team, focusing on Entra and our security products. Thanks a lot for joining this second session on Entra Identity Governance. Today, we'll be looking at whatever we did not cover in the last session last week on Wednesday. Um, we'll be I'll try to recap a little bit on what we covered at the very end of last session, and at the same time then we'll jump into whatever we have not covered, and we'll talk about different things. Licensing was something that was brought up a couple of times last time as well, so what we'll do is we'll try to cover that in detail as we go along. We will be posting the survey link in a bit, so please make sure that you complete the survey and let us know what you think about the session. Let us know if you are interested in a POC. Let us know if you are interested in us contacting you regarding one-to-one sessions or to answer any questions that you might have that might not have been answered today. So in the survey form, we are asking all those different questions. Please let us know what you're thinking, if you want us to get in contact with you, we'll be more than happy to actually contact you afterwards to have one-on-one sessions or to actually answer any questions that might be outstanding from today's session. So what we covered last week was more around lifecycle workflows, how you can integrate your HR systems with Entra Identity Governance and Entra Identity in general. And then we also talked about entitlement management and provisioning to applications as well. If you have not had a chance or did not or you were not part of the last session that we did last week, please go and watch the recording. The recording should now be available online for you as well. So please go and watch the recording, and then today's session will make more sense. So what we did last week was we actually looked at how a person, or how an organization can actually provision from their HR systems to Entra Identity, whether it be a HR system such as Workday, SuccessFactors, or any other HR system that we currently don't have out-of-the-box integration with, to utilize API-driven inbound provisioning for those kind of HR systems. Or if you're using a flat file or a database, to use API-driven inbound provisioning for provisioning from those systems to Entra Identity as well. Then we looked at lifecycle workflows, how you can then automate the next part. An identity was provisioned into Entra Identity. How do you then automate the access, the birthright access for that new user within your organization? Or if a user is changing role, how do you automate that change of a role as well? And if the user was leaving your organization, HR system notified Entra Identity, how can you utilize lifecycle workflows to then automate the deprovisioning of that user as well? We then looked into how you can use application, scheme-based provisioning to applications as well. So how you can provision users into application automatically at the same time as well. So we talked about all of that, and then we talked about how people can do self-service access management. What we are very big on in Microsoft is we want to be able to empower our customers so that they can in turn empower their users to take charge of their access management. And with self-service access management, we want to be able to actually achieve that. To handle that, like we talked about entitlement management, we discussed what what it means, how you can define packages within your environment, how people can go through multi-stage approval workflows to get access to packages, and how you can define separation of duties as well. So say, for example, if somebody was in a particular group or had access to a particular access package, how do you stop that person from requesting access to another access package? So you could do that quite easily with separation of duties. We talked about this in great detail last time. I then went and defined all the different components of entitlement management. So what does connected organization mean? What is an access package? What kind of resources you can actually add to an access package? What does a policy do, right? We talked about all of these different components to entitlement management. We also looked at the integration with logic apps through custom extensions, how you can trigger a particular logic app at a particular part of the whole workflow. So say, for example, when the request was made, or when the request was approved, or when the access was granted or removed, how can you actually integrate with logic apps to trigger different workflows that might be unique to your organization? So we talked about all of that as well. Then we talked about how you can collect information from users. So especially with guest users, when they request access to an access package within your environment, what you want to be able to do is collect as much information about that user as possible, and then keep that information on the user object within your directory so that you can then automate or use that information for other automation tasks, or like, doing something different, or like, making references to those through like, other processes. So capturing that information as part of the workflow and then storing that information on the guest user object within your environment becomes very easy with entitlement management as well. The other thing that I mentioned, and I'll show you how to do this today, is what you can also do is, instead of having to invite a guest user into your tenant prior to giving them access to a resource, with entitlement management, with access packages, what you can do is you can automate the whole lifecycle management of guest users as well. So when somebody from outside your organization requests access to an access package, which is like, available in your organization, when that access is approved or the access request is approved, at that point in time, through entitlement management, the user is created as a guest user in your environment automatically. So you don't have to go and like, do that invitation process manually. And then based on settings that you define, you can quite easily also make sure that the user is successfully disabled and deprovisioned from your environment as well when the user loses access to the last access package assignment that they had in your environment. So you can actually do those kind of things as well. And that takes care of the whole lifecycle management of guest users. Provisioning automatically, and at the same time removing the access, disabling the user, and after a set number of days deleting the user from your environment altogether. We did talk about separation of duties a bit ago, and we also talked about how you can utilize verifiable credentials from the verified identity service that we provide for entitlement management and access to access packages. So what we are trying to do is actually make sure that our products actually work together quite well. So what we are trying to demonstrate with this particular feature is you can utilize a verifiable credential issued by Entra Verified ID to request access to our access package, which is done through entitlement management within identity governance. So both of them work quite well together. So with that, let me jump into and show you how all of this looks like in the portal. So let me bring up my portal over here. And what I wanted to quickly show you is, if I go to identity governance over here and select entitlement management, I can see all these different menu items. The first one that I wanted to quickly talk about is the settings. So this is where you can define what happens when a guest user loses access to their last access package assignment. So what you can do is you can say, when the guest user loses their last assignment to any access package, I want the account to be disabled in my directory. And then after a set number of days, and we provide you this flexibility to actually put the number of days yourself, you can select how many days after the user has lost their last assignment, the user needs to be then removed from your directory altogether. So you can actually quite easily define this setting. And as I mentioned before, this will take care of the lifecycle management of guest users within your environment. The next bit is reports. Like, you can actually define or create different kinds of reports from here. You can look at the insights and the reporting from here as well. This is currently in public preview. We'll just let it generate for a sec. And with entitlement management, you can then go ahead and connect to an organization if you wanted to. If you are collaborating or working with an organization quite closely, what you want is frictionless collaboration with that organization. Now, with connected organizations, you can quite easily go and connect to an organization from here, and just through a couple of steps, you then make the whole collaboration experience a bit more frictionless as well. And I'll show you when I go and create access packages and catalogs as to where this comes in handy. The next bit is catalog. So when we talked about it last time, we defined a catalog as a container of resources and access packages. So if I was to create a quick catalog over here for example, the finance department, and I could call it finance department over here. And what we'll do is We'll enable it for everybody. We'll enable it for external users as well. And let's create this quickly. It doesn't take very long to create a catalog. Within a catalog, what you can do is you can then add resources. So I can do I can add different resource types to our catalog. So I can add groups and teams, applications, and SharePoint online sites as well. So over here, let me just quickly add a license group. I'll just pick the Salesforce application, and then I'll also add a SharePoint site over here as well. So these are the resources that you can actually quite easily add to our catalog. And once this is added, you can then go ahead and define some access packages within the catalog. So what we'll do now is we'll quickly go and create an access package for the finance department as well. And this time around, we'll call it finance, and we'll because it could be for a project, so we'll call it Project X. So this when we create the access package, it actually then allows you to then create the policy at the same time as well. So in this one, I can then go and add the resources over here as well. I can add the resources which are part of the catalog, or if I wanted to add something that was not part of the catalog, I could actually select over here, and it will actually give me the rest of the resources that are available in the tenant as well. We'll just add the Salesforce application as well. Now, what you'd notice is when I add the resources over here, I get to select what role the user will get when they get approval for this particular access package. So in this case, because the first resource is a group, I get the two options of owner and member. So I can select the member as the role that the person will get when they get approval to use this particular access package or the resources within that access package. Similarly, with the Salesforce application, I get all these different roles. I can pick one of the roles over here, and that becomes part of the access package as well. Now I can define who can request access. So this is very important. So I can say, you know what, I only want users in my directory to be able to request access. I can actually narrow it down to specific users and groups. I can narrow it down to all members within my tenant, excluding guest users, or I can include guest users as well. So I have that flexibility to constrain this particular access package to that particular group of people if I wanted to. Furthermore, I can actually select for users not in my directory. And this is where the connected organization comes into play. So I can say, you know what, I want this access package to be available to people from a specific connected organization. And I can then go and pick the organization that I want this particular access package to be available for. Right. When I select this, the advantage is I can actually use, so if I go to approvals, I can use somebody from that external organization as the first stage approver as well. So I can say the external sponsor will become the first stage approver, and then other people can become the second and third stage approvers if I wanted to go down that path of multi-stage approvals as well. I also have the option to say all configured connected organizations. Basically, what it means is whatever I have already configured in my environment as connected organizations, those will be allowed to request access to this package. Or I can go very general and basically make it available to anybody on the internet, right? With that one, as you can see, as I selected this particular option, the requirement for approvals became mandatory. I can't actually bypass this anymore. And then I have to go through an approval process because now we are opening it to the wider world as well. The last option that you see over here is for for not for people to be able to request access, but for administrators to directly assign this access package to somebody. So you can select that option. It will not appear for people to request access, but people can actually, or administrators can actually assign this directly to users. Now I'm going to select this option over here, and I'm going to just for the demo for this particular package, I'm just going to use my account. Sorry, just give me a sec. Let me just use this one, specific approver. Let me go and select my admin account over here, and then I can define the number of days before the decision has to be made. I can also provide alternate approvers as well. So say, for example, if I wanted to, I can say, and this is not going to a second stage. This is just an alternate approver for this particular approver over here. So I can say, if this particular person does not approve in 8 days' time, I want this to go to somebody else. Say, for example, I can say, I want it to go to Adele in my team for actually this approval. So I can do that as well with alternate approvers. I can require justification for the approver as well. So the approver has to give some justification as to why they are approving this access. I can enable the request from here. Now, this is where the integration of verified ID comes into play. So what I can do over here is I can say, you know what, I want people who are part of this particular organization, right? Like this organization, I want people who are part of that organization that have a verified credential to be able to request access to this using their verifiable credentials as well. So I can do that. What I can do is I can add this over here, and I can remove this requirement for approvals if I was going to a particular connected organization and just saying, okay, people from that particular connected organization can utilize verifiable credentials to access to request access to this particular access package. So you can do those kind of things as well. Let me go forwards. This is where you can ask questions, things like what organization are you from? Or have you read our NDA document or something like that? And you can provide them an answer format with multiple choice or short text or long text as well. You can define the life cycle of an access package. So you can say, you know what, this access package is for a particular project, and because of that, I'm going to limit this for till the end of this year, right? So you can do those kind of things. You can actually define an access review for an access package over here as well. Next, you can integrate this with a custom extension. So I can actually say, you know what, when the assignment is granted, I want a particular custom extension to actually be triggered as part of this. I don't have any custom extensions defined for this particular catalog. That's why I don't actually see this over here, but I'll show you in another access package that I have already pre-created. And then I can go ahead. So I'm just going to remove this, and I can then go ahead, review the settings, and then create this particular access package. Now, once the access package is created, especially if you are trying to share this access package with people outside your organization, it's best to share this link with them. This My Access portal link will allow then people to actually request access from outside your organization as well. But for people internal to your organization, they don't really need to, or you don't really need to send them this link. They can go to myaccess.microsoft.com. And they will see all those access packages which they have eligibility to request access to, and then they can request from there. And we'll see that in a sec as well. So this is how you go and create an access package. Now, what I have done is I have already got some access packages in my tenant, which I have created, pre-created for certain things. So this is the one that I have done before, which has got a policy on it, and an access package can have more than one policy as well. So just be mindful of this, because in many cases customers get confused whether they can have more than one policy, or can the same access package be requested by people internal to the organization and also people outside the organization as well. It is definitely possible, right? And you can have different settings for internal users and for external users as well. So for this case, I've got a policy for my internal users, and if I go and edit the policy, what I'm basically asking for them is, I'm not actually asking for any approvals, right? I'm just saying, people have to be in my directory and have to be members of the directory and not guest users. And then what I've done is I've actually added a custom extension for this one. So with this one, I'm actually calling a logic app, and that logic app does something very simple. It actually sends a Teams notification to the user saying, you know what, you have been approved access for this particular access package, and because I'm triggering it at this particular stage of the approval workflow. And then secondly, I'm also adding that user to the marketing campaign Teams channel as well. So that's the policy, and I'll quickly jump into this portal over here to show you how that logic app looks like. It's a very simple, very straightforward logic app. I'm not doing anything fancy over here. What I have just basically done is on that trigger where the request has been approved, and because this is an automatic approval as well, I don't have to worry about it. I'm actually posting a message on the chat for that particular user, and then I'm adding the user to the marketing campaign Teams channel as well. So let's jump into another browser session where I am logged in as this particular user. So this user, as you can see, Christy Klein, is part of the Lab 1 environment that we were currently working with. and this user has got this particular access package available to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to request this access, right? I can provide some justification if I wanted to, but it's not mandatory. Let me just request access, and it will go through the cycle of actually requesting access. And because it's set up for automatic approval as well, it will do the automatic approval too. Now I can go to the request history and I can see what is going on. So I can this is currently in the process of being delivered. I can go to view and I can see what is going on. So I've submitted the request as Christy. It was automatically approved. It is currently delivering, right? So this will update fairly soon. Once it's delivered, you'll see that information about that over here as well. And you can, under details, you can see what is part of that particular access package as well in terms of resources. So you can see the access has now been delivered. Now, if I was to jump into Teams as that particular user, so I've got the different tabs open. So I'll go to Teams over here, and you'll see our notification. So the first notification, this one over here is basically telling the user that they have been given access to the marketing campaign access package. And the second notification basically says, Jay Maharaj has added you to the marketing campaign Teams channel. So if I go over here, I should now see the marketing campaign Teams channel over here as well. So what I wanted to demonstrate was you can quite easily integrate with logic apps and do something different, or if there's a requirement for your business to do something specific as part of this particular approval workflow for entitlement management access package access, you can quite easily integrate with logic apps, and you can quite easily do certain things that might be unique to your organization. So that was one of the demos that I wanted to talk about. The second bit that I want to show you is auto assignments. So what I get asked quite regularly by customers is how do I make sure, or how do I set up my environment so that when somebody joins into my organization in a particular role, based on the department or some other attribute, how do I give them access to certain things automatically? I don't want to so lifecycle workflows is good, it does its work, but at the same time, say for example, if there was access packages that I wanted automatically assigned to people in a particular role or in a particular department, how do I do that? Right. So it's nothing different. So the process of the setting up the access package is very similar to how we did the finance project X. But what you have to do in terms of policies is you can define an auto assignment policy, right? So in this case, I've already assigned an auto assignment policy to this particular access package. And if I go and edit this policy, what you'll notice is I'm actually saying if the user department, so the department attribute of the user contains the value of sales, I want this particular access package to be automatically assigned to that person, right? And move from one role to the other, from one department to the other, it actually does that as well. It will remove the user from that particular access package when that particular department value changes. So that's the automatic assignment of access packages to people. It can be quite easily set up, and you can rest assured that the system will take care of this for you. So you don't have to worry about somebody changing departments and then going and removing the access from the sales package, for example. It will actually do that for you. The last bit that I wanted to talk about is Entra Verified ID with entitlement management. So what I have done in my tenant is I have created an access package. So if I go over here, there's an access package that I have created for Fabricam collaboration. So I've got two tenants. I've got a Lab 1 and a Lab 2. Lab 1 is Contoso, Lab 2 is Fabricam. And for this one, what I have done is I have actually created a policy. If I go and look at this policy, I have created a policy that allows people to utilize their verifiable credential from Fabricam to get access to this particular access package. And what I've done also is I've limited these two people from the Lab 2 environment as well. So that's the policy that I have done. Now, what I wanted to show you is if I go over here, so I'm logged in over here as this particular user. His name is Grady, but he's part of Lab 2, as you can see. Now, I can quite easily request a verifiable credential for this user. So what I will do is Like I'm on his myaccount.microsoft.com page, and I can, like on the my account on the overview tab, I can see, like, get a verified ID for a verified employee, right? So I can go over here, and it will generate a QR code that I can then scan, and I can then receive a VC for this. So this is my phone screen. Let me unlock my phone, authenticate our app, and what I will do is I will scan this QR code which is there, and what it will do is it will add a VC for that particular user. As you can see, the VC has been there, and I can now add it to my wallet as well. So I'm using the Authenticator app as a wallet. So this is how easy it is to now get a verifiable credential from Entra Identity. Identity, and once you have got it, what you can do then is you can then utilize it to request access to an access package. So let me just grab the link from the other window. Just give me a sec. So remember, I talked about, like, you getting a link that you can share with people outside your organization, because in this case, like, Grady is part of another organization. I'm actually grabbing that link from that particular access package, and what I will do is I have already got a verifiable credential for another user. I'm going to use that one for this demo. Let me just bring this up. So fresh window, let me log into this, to this URL for that access package. I am going to log in as Cameron White at lab2. And this is a user that I actually requested a VC for previously. And what should happen now is, because I'm trying to access that particular access package for Fabricam collaboration, it should actually present a QR code for me to scan to get access to this particular access package. Now I'm going to bring up my phone screen again, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to scan this particular QR code. It should then ask me to select a particular verifiable credential. Let me select this one. This is for one of the users. Okay, brilliant.
It's in the blue slide.
Okay, so that's good. Let me know if it stops again. But what I was doing, I think, and like more than likely it has already expired. But let me try this again. So what we were trying to do is basically get a verifiable credential and use that verifiable credential to then access a particular access package. So let me just restart this again. And what I will do is I'll quickly jump back into a fresh browser session, and we'll go through this flow quickly. This is an important flow because this actually shows how you can utilize a VC from the verifiable credential or verified ID environment to access access packages which are set up by Entitlement Management. So I think you guys would have heard me talking about this, but you might not have actually seen the QR code come up. So this time around, hopefully the QR code will be visible to you, and I should be able to then present a verifiable credential to access this particular access package. So let me look at this one. This is the user that I want to share the information for, and let me just share that information. And then the verification process actually continues from there. As you can see, the verifiable credential was successfully shared and verified. Please continue the request. I can provide some justification if I wanted to, and then I can go ahead and request access to it. And similarly to the other access packages that we saw before, like I can go into request history and see how it is going. So this one is currently being delivered, and you can see it is auto approved, and now it's in the delivery process. So I was able to utilize a verifiable credential to request access to an access package set up through Entitlement Management. Now that concludes the demos for Entitlement Management. The next bit that I want to talk about is the next part of the identity lifecycle, which is access recertification. So an important requirement for organizations is that users don't have stale or unneeded access on their accounts. So any standing access needs to be recertified periodically to reduce the risk of stale or unneeded access on people's accounts. Now, the access recertification within Entra Identity Governance is called access reviews, and this is natively built into Entra Identity as well. It helps organizations manage risk and meet compliance for their users, guests, and external users and workload identities as well. Now, it ensures that access to sensitive teams, groups, applications, and roles is periodically reviewed and access is removed when necessary as well. With access reviews and Entra Identity Governance, organizations can manage access lifecycle for users assigned to groups. They can manage the access for enterprise applications. They can manage access reviews for access packages and for privileged roles as well. With access reviews, you can actually make users review their access themselves initially, after which it can go to managers of those users, and then it can go to resource owners and other reviewers within the organization as well. This allows for that flexibility where you can actually do multi-stage reviews without having to worry about the user just saying, you know what, okay, I need access to this particular resource, and then keeping that access for an extended period of time. Access reviews is a policy-based access certification mechanism, which can be used not just for an organization's employees, but also for their guest users and for privileged roles as well. With a growing trend of more applications and services moving to the cloud, it can also be used for non-human workload identities or service principals as well. To help reduce review attestation fatigue, it provides intelligent recommendations. The approval workflows can be customized and it can be multi-staged as well with multiple approvers. To gain more insights on the access reviews or for audit and compliance needs, there is the possibility to download an access review history report as well, which you can then send to your auditors for review. Right? These reports can be constructed to include specific access reviews. It can be constructed to include specific timeframes. It can be constructed to include different review types and review the results as well. So how access review works? When you set up access review, the first thing that you have to do is select the resource that you want to do the review for. As I mentioned before, you can do reviews for teams and groups. You can do reviews for applications. You can do reviews for privileged roles, and you can also do reviews for access packages as well. After that, you have to select the scope. So who is this review being targeted for, right? You can target it for guest users, employees, everyone, and workload identities as well. You can then select the reviewer, which can be the user themselves. You can make the manager of the user the reviewer. You can select the resource owner, or you can choose specific reviewers as well. And then you can define the frequency for that review as well. By the way, can I get somebody to post the link to the survey as well? To everyone in the audience, if you can take out some time while I'm going through the presentation or afterwards to sign or to complete that survey, that would be really nice. The next bit that we wanted to talk about is the reviewer. So what happens from a reviewer's perspective? The reviewer gets an email notification with some content that you can customize in that email, and then based on the link that is available in that email, they go to the My Access page, and on the My Access page, they can then review the access that they have been selected as the reviewer for. We also provide multi-stage access reviews, and one of the things that I wanted to talk about for this one is the fact that you can reduce the burden on later stage reviewers by selecting only certain things to go to the next stage of that review. So say for example, if I was the first stage approver, if I've gone through 150 people and approved and denied access to certain people, the next stage reviewer does not really need to go through the 150 people again. What you can do is you can actually say, you know what, everybody that Jay has approved access for will be the people that will be seen by the next stage approver, the next stage reviewer, and then they can go through that subset instead of going through that 150 people again, over and over again through the different stages. Once you set up an access review for all M365 groups with guest users, any newly created groups that have guest users in them and existing groups that have newly added guests in them are automatically included for the review as well. So you can rest assured that once you set up a review for M365 groups with guest users, any other groups created after you have set up that review or any new guest users added to those groups after you have set up the review will be automatically included in the review as well. You can do reviews for service principals as well. So like if service principals have got privileged directory roles within your environment, you can do reviews for those as well. And this is something that is very important, especially in terms of compliance. A lot of organizations require that auditors be sent compliance reports. What you can do quite easily is you can export the review history. You can download it and you can send it to your auditors for any compliance requirements that you might have. And as mentioned previously, you can select the reviews that you want as part of that report. You can select the time frames, and you can configure all of that to suit your review requirements or your audit requirements, and then you can send the report to the relevant people. We provide out-of-the-box intelligent recommendations. Now, these recommendations assist you with making decisions regarding those reviews, right? So we provide things such as has the user signed in the last 30 days? So you get information on that. And then based on that, you can make a decision whether that user should keep access to this particular resource that you are reviewing access to. The other thing which has come as part of the general availability of identity governance at the beginning of July this year is user to group affiliation. So say, for example, if there's a user who has got access to a particular group which is predominantly used by a particular team, if that user is not closely affiliated with that particular team, with the access reviews, we surface that information. So we actually recommend that you deny access, and the reason behind that is the low affiliation of that user to that particular group. So with that, let me just jump back into the portal again, and I'll quickly show you how you can do an access review or set up an access review. So with access reviews, it's pretty straightforward, and it's it's a very straightforward, easy to set up environment. But it does wonders for your environment because, in many cases, customers don't pay attention to access that people have. So I can select teams and groups over here. I can select all M365 groups with guest users in them, and I can scope it to guest users only. I can also scope it to people who have been inactive in my tenant for a set number of days. So with guest users, I can say, you know what, I want to only do reviews for guest users who have been inactive in my tenant for 90 days, and it will only scope it to those people. So you don't get people who are active, you only get people who are inactive for 90 days. And then what you can do is you can define a multi-stage review from here. So you can do select the user themselves, the manager of the users if you wanted to, and you can decide what goes to the next stage as well from here. Now I'm going to make it a single stage, and you can select a particular user as well. If you wanted to, say for example, as an admin, do the review yourself, you can do that as well. So let me just select that. You can define the duration of the review, so how long the reviewer has to actually make the decision. You can define the recurrence, so how often do you want the review to actually happen. You can define the end date, and you can now define the settings. So what happens as part of this particular review? So I can say apply the results automatically to the resource. I can say if the reviewer does not respond, I want to choose one of these options or take the recommendations. I can send notifications at the end of the review to certain people as well. And this is where I can enable decision helpers. So I can enable decision helpers such as people who have been inactive in my tenant or the user to group affiliation bed, right? I can ask for justifications, send out email notifications. I can send out reminders halfway through the review process as well. I can customize the content of the email that goes out. So I can say, you know what, this is a review for guest users, and I can say, please complete this ASAP, right? So I can do those kind of things as well, and then I can go ahead and create the review. Now I've already done some reviews, or I've created some reviews before, so I'm going to just quickly jump back to that. And what I wanted to show you before I go there is this. So as a reviewer, I receive an email, right? And on the email, I get this custom content which I put into the content of that email. Like it's a review for a sensitive group, and I can click on Start Review. It will take me to my access page, and then on the my access page, I have different access reviews currently which are active. So I can go to this one over here. I can look at the recommendations that are provided by the system, and based on that I can actually make a decision. So over here I can go and look at this one over here. It says the recommendation is to deny access because the user has been inactive in the tenant, and the reason behind that is justified with the date of when the user last logged on. So in this case, this particular account last logged on December 11th in 2022. Right. So I can, you can actually get that kind of information, and you can make an intelligent decision based on that. I can bulk select and action it. I can also accept the recommendations from here if I wanted to, or if I wanted to, I could go individually and do a review, one review at a time as well. So all of that is possible, right? Access review is, as I mentioned before, something very important. If you have not set it up in your environment, please go and set it up because this actually can save us a lot of information that was previously unknown to you as an administrator. The next bit that we want to talk about is just-in-time access and just-enough access, right? So as administrators, we accumulate a lot of access over time. So we accumulate a lot of access as we go from being a help desk administrator to a global administrator within an environment. What we want is, we don't want administrators to have 24/7 standing access on their accounts. What we want is administrators to be eligible for a particular role. The administrator then goes, activates that role on their account, gets that access for a set period of time. After that period of time, that access is removed from that account, and then that administrator account no longer has that privileged access on that account. So this is where we want to be able to go to, not have standing privileged access on an account continuously. How do we do that? So to actually facilitate that, we have got PIM, or Privileged Identity Management, within Entra Identity Governance. So what is PIM? Right. PIM is a service in Entra Identity for managing access to privileged resources. PIM enables you to manage, control, monitor, access to important resources in your organization. So what you can do quite easily is you can actually have PIM roles defined for your Azure Active Directory environment or Entra Identity environment. You can have PIM roles defined for Azure RBAC. You can also have PIM manage your privileged groups as well. So this is something that is quite new and quite amazing in the same way, because what it does is it actually allows you to now manage privileged access to things like SharePoint owner groups or AWS developer groups, Salesforce admin groups. You can actually manage those as well. So this is what I was talking about before. You can actually use PIM to manage groups, which will then give you privileged access to certain admin roles within different applications. I'm just gonna go through this a bit quicker than I anticipated, totally because of the issues that we previously had. You can receive alerts for Azure roles. Say, for example, if somebody were to go ahead and give somebody direct access to Azure role without using PIM, that can actually generate alerts as well. We have integrated PIM with conditional access policies as well. So previously with PIM, you could only do controls such as Azure MFA, or require justification, require ticketing information, or require approval to activate that role. Now what you can do is you can actually integrate that with conditional access policies as well, where you can ask a user whether they are on a device which is compliant. So for example, marked as compliant in Intune. Is the device, like, having an attribute of source, for example, you can actually ask for those kind of information. You can check for like, user location. You can check for user risk as well, and make sure that, like, any risk-based conditional access policy that are applied can be, like, taken care of as well. So if the user has a very high risk within the environment, what you can do is you can say, you know what, because the user is marked as a high-risk user, I don't want that user to be able to activate a privileged role within my tenant, right? So you can do those kind of things as well. You can utilize PIM with Azure Lighthouse. So if you are a partner that uses Azure Lighthouse to manage multiples of tenants, look into how you can utilize PIM for that as well. You can use PIM with IBAC as well. So Azure IBAC, what you can do is you can say, like, I want people to be able to enable a particular role, but only have privileged access to resources which are tagged with a particular, particular tag, right? So, and then based on that tag information on a particular resource within Azure, that particular user will be able to then get privileged access to that particular resource. We do surface a lot of information that you can utilize for discovery and for insights. So make sure you look at the overview pages. The overview pages actually show you everything that is important. So let me just quickly show you how this looks like. So if I go back to my portal over here, I can go to Privileged Identity Management, and I can, like, from here, I can select which particular environment I want to manage. So do I want to manage Entra Identity roles? Do I want to manage groups through PIM, or do I want to manage Azure Resources through PIM? So if I have a subscription linked up to this particular tenant, I'll see it over here, and then I can go and manage it as well. With Entra Identity roles, you can assign a role to people. So, like, I can go and say, you know what, I want to select a particular role. So in this case, I'll just quickly say user administrator role, and I want that to be available to a group of people. So in this case, I'm gonna go and, like, assign it to a particular group. So I'm gonna select this, like, PIM user administrator group, and then I can go ahead and define, like, the eligibility settings as well. So this becomes permanently eligible, right? And then what I can do is I can then go and define the role settings as well. So if I go over here and find the user administrator role, I can define the role settings where I can ask for multi-factor authentication. I can ask for things like controls be applied through a conditional access policy. I can ask for approvers as well. So I want people to be able to approve this before the user can activate a role. So I can ask for those kind of things as well, right? And once this is done, like, you can quite easily make sure that your administrators are in a secure environment on a secure machine before they can activate a role. Now, I would have gone through and showed you how you can activate a role and use this user administrator role to manage users within an environment, but I'm mindful of time. I have got 2 minutes left, and I wanted to cover a couple of other things that are important as well. So I'm just going to continue and not go into that part of the demo. But if you want to see that demo, what we'll do is we'll see if I can put a video on that, or reach out to us through the survey, and I can actually have a one-on-one session with you as well. The last part of the lifecycle workflow the last part of the identity lifecycle management is deprovisioning, and we have talked about how you can deprovision users through lifecycle workflows. So it's fairly straightforward to do that through lifecycle workflows. We have talked about that in great detail in the last session. There's the importance of actually making sure that we are deprovisioning users. It reduces risk to your organization. It increases your efficiency as well, and it makes sure that, you are not licensing users who are no longer existent in your environment as well. We do provide ongoing auditing and reporting as well, and I talked about this with access reviews. So make sure you look into that as well. With ongoing auditing and reporting, the one thing that I quickly wanted to mention for this is make sure that you are siphoning off your logs to other environments, such as Microsoft Sentinel or Splunk or some other CM environment, totally, because these logs are only retained within Entra Identity for a fixed period of time. After that, they will be patched and you will not be able to access them. Like a picture speaks 1,000 words, and we provide a lot of dashboards. So there's an identity governance dashboard that you can now utilize to see how your environment is postured, right? We also provide insights into guest users as well as part of the dashboard. So go and check it out and have a look at it and see, like, what it means for your organization. Now, I've gone through all of this in detail, but if you want to have a one-on-one conversation with us, or if you want to, ask any questions with us, make sure you put it in the survey. Make sure you mark or answer that question properly, where we are asking whether we can reach out to you directly, and we'll reach out to you in due time as well. Now, one thing that is very common at the moment is people are asking for licensing information. So we have got a new SKU for Entra Identity Governance. That SKU provides you with access to all the different features that I have talked about. Now, you'll get this slide as part of the deck when it's shared. But what I wanted to quickly share is this. If I go back to my portal link over here, so this is a page that we have put together, and I'll include the link as part of the summary email, where we compare what features are part of what particular SKUs. So, a lot of customers have P1 or P2, and some customers have gone ahead and bought the new identity governance SKU. But this page actually talks about that in great detail, and I'll actually include that as part of the package that is sent out to you. And finally, this over here as well. Like, a lot of customers are asking about guest user management through Entra Identity Governance and the licensing for that. So this was released, as you can see, just a couple of days ago. And we have basically announced that to help customers, guest users will be charged at 75 cents per user, so monthly active user. And this currently is anticipated to come out in spring of 2024. So spring based on US time, or US US time, basically. In the interim, you can utilize that at no additional cost. So you can do all your guest user management without any additional cost to your business. And once this is released, we'll let you know. So that was the licensing bit I wanted to quickly cover. I know I'm a couple of minutes over time, but I'll share all of these resources with you guys as well. I'm sure, like, my colleagues have answered all the questions in the chat. If there's any questions which are remaining, please feel free to put it in the survey, and we'll get back to you in due time. With that, I do apologize for the issues that we had in the middle. Unfortunately, it did not work the way we wanted it to work, but we were able to get together and then complete it just over time, but we still managed to complete it, which is a good thing. So finally, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for joining the 2 sessions on Entra Identity Governance. If you have any questions, if you have any feedback for us, please make sure you complete the survey forms, give us that information. And if you want us to connect with you afterwards, we are more than happy to do so as well. Once again, thanks a lot for joining in. And once again, thanks a lot for my colleagues for helping me out with the session as well. Thanks a lot, everyone.